Hello, everyone. It was January 15th, 2009. New York City was freezing cold. The temperature was -6 degrees Celsius. At LaGuardia Airport, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 was getting ready to take off. On the plane, there were 150 passengers and 5 crew members. Some people were reading newspapers. Some people were looking out the window. The pilot was Captain Chesley Sullenberger. Everyone called him Sully. He was a very experienced pilot. He had been flying planes for 40 years. His co-pilot was Jeff Skiles. At 3:24 p.m., the plane took off safely. It went up into the beautiful blue sky. Everything was perfectly normal, but only for 2 minutes. At 3,000 feet in the air, Captain Sully was looking straight ahead. Suddenly, he saw a dark line in the sky. It was moving very fast. It was a huge flock of Canada geese, big, heavy birds. There was no time to turn. There was no time to do anything. Co-pilot Jeff shouted, "Birds! Bang, bang!" The birds hit the front of the plane. They went right into the left engine. They went right into the right engine. The passengers heard a terrible, loud noise. It sounded like a bomb. Then a terrible smell came into the cabin. It smelled like burning meat and fire. But the scariest part was not the noise. It was the silence. The engines stopped. Both of them. The airplane became a heavy metal box falling from the sky. Captain Sully felt his stomach drop. He took the controls and said, "My aircraft." He called air traffic control in New York. The man on the radio was Patrick Harton. Sully's voice was surprisingly calm. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is Cactus 1549. We hit birds. We lost both engines. We are turning back to LaGuardia." Patrick, the controller, was shocked. Both engines? That is almost impossible. He quickly stopped all other airplanes. He cleared runway 13 for Sully. "Cactus 1549, runway 13 is ready for you," Patrick said. Sully looked at the distance. He looked at how fast they were falling. He knew the truth. They were too low. They were too slow. "We're unable," Sully answered. "We may end up in the Hudson." Patrick panicked. "Do you want to go to Teterboro Airport in New Jersey?" "I can clear a runway there." Sully looked at Teterboro. No, it was too far. If they tried to reach the airport, they would crash into the tall buildings of New York City. Thousands of people would die. Sully made the hardest decision of his life. "We can't do it," he said. "We're going to be in the Hudson." Patrick couldn't believe it. Landing a huge passenger plane on a river, it was crazy. Planes usually break into pieces when they hit water at that speed. In the back of the plane, the passengers didn't know what was happening. They just knew the engines were quiet. Then the radio turned on. They heard Captain Sully's voice. He only said 3 words, but they were the most terrifying words in the world. "This is the captain. Brace for impact." The flight attendants started shouting immediately. "Brace, brace, heads down, stay down." People started to pray. Some people took out their phones to send a last text message to their families. "I love you." A mother held her baby tightly. Outside the window, the gray water of the Hudson River was getting closer and closer. Sully had to keep the wings perfectly level. If one wing touched the water first, the plane would flip over and everyone would die. He pulled the nose of the plane up just a little bit. And then, crash! Water splashed everywhere. The impact was violent. But when the plane stopped, it was in one piece. It was floating. Sully did it. He landed a giant airplane on a river perfectly. But the danger was not over. Freezing water started coming into the plane very fast. Evacuate! Evacuate! The passengers opened the emergency doors and stepped out onto the wings of the airplane. It was freezing. People were standing on the wings in the icy water, shaking. The plane was slowly sinking. Would they freeze to death? At that moment, the people of New York City became heroes. Ferry captains saw the plane fall. They didn't wait for orders. They turned their big passenger boats around and rushed to the airplane. One boat, two boats, police boats, helicopters. In just a few minutes, the airplane was surrounded by helpers. They threw ropes and life jackets. They pulled the freezing passengers onto the warm boats. Inside the sinking plane, the water was up to the seats. Captain Sully walked up and down the aisle. Twice. He checked every seat. He wanted to make sure nobody was left behind. Only when the plane was completely empty, Captain Sully finally stepped out. He was the last man to leave the ship. Later that night, the news announced the final numbers. 150 passengers, 5 crew members. How many died? 0. How many survived? 155, everyone. People called it the miracle on the Hudson. But Captain Sully didn't call it a miracle. He said it wasn't a miracle. It was thousands of hours of training. And it was teamwork. Everyone did their job perfectly. The co-pilot, the flight attendants, the ferry captains, the police. We did it together. Sometimes life hits us hard, just like the birds hit those engines. We feel like we are falling. But if we stay calm, if we do our best, and if we help each other, we can land safely on the river. Thank you for listening to this amazing true story. See you in the next episode.